Welcome to Garage Money Pit, where we put the oops I did it again into Money Pit. Welcome back if you've watched some of my other videos, and thank you for watching them. So yes, I did it again. An unplanned purchase. Most of mine are. And this is one of my bucket list bikes. This is a 1992 R100GS. Very nice condition, very low mileage. Not as low mileage as my CB404, but pretty close, in the sense that it's one of those bikes that certainly stood a lot more than it was driven. All right, let's take a closer look at this bike. It's a non-Paris Dakar model, so it's got the regular size tank, it's got a little bit less scaffolding. It's just in nice original condition, mostly original condition at least, and it's pretty low mileage. So let's have a look at that first. So this is, from all the paperwork I have and everything, the original mileage, and the 63 miles that are on the trip meter are actually the miles I already put on this bike. Front brake needs a bit of attention, like with a lot of these bikes. It's a bit sticky. You probably heard it drag as I was pushing the bike out of the garage. Headlight mostly needs a clean. It's an e-cold one, so halogen light should be pretty decent once it's cleaned up. It is a paralever bike, so I hadn't mentioned this. This is the last generation of the R100GS. This actually was made a year before the 1100GS was presented to the public. The 1100GS, of course, had fuel injection, 4-valve heads, telelever, ABS, you name it. This one has none of this. It's got a couple of bings, and it does have the paralever already. And here we get to the first GS specific part. You notice that the left pannier is much smaller than the right one. These are GS specific panniers. If you're looking for an original bike and it doesn't have those panniers, they're not that easy to find, and they're fairly expensive these days. We also notice that like some surface rust pock marks on here. I have to clean that up. I'm planning to clean it up and repaint that rack in winter. Original exhaust. Large number of them either have a replica exhaust on it or a super trap. One way on how you can tell it's the original one, it's still got the additional muffler down here. This one needs replacing, that's just dried out and cracked. As you can see, the carb has some petrol stains on it, but they're not overflowing, so that's good. If these bikes have stood for a while, what can happen is that the petrol overflows out of the float bowl, and then you get a very flammable boot out of it. I also think it still has the original ignition coil, and that's probably one of the areas where I will go and forego my quest for originality, because the coils on these crack. I've had one of these before. First time it rained, the bike stopped dead because the coil shorted out. There are various aftermarket fixes. I'll probably put one on over the winter. But yeah, oh yeah, and it has new tires. The ones that were on there were from, I think, date coded 2002, so that would make them 22 years old. I'm not going to risk riding a bike on 22-year-old tires, but oh yeah, and there's some minor scratches here, but it's not a restored bike, right? These are original only ones, and it's in just nice condition, but not so nice that you don't want to use it, which was important to me. So if you're familiar with BMW Airheads, you are obviously aware of the little tool compartment under the seat. So I'm having a look around what I find in there. So the first thing I found was the original tire plug kit, complete with all the CO2 cartridges. Now they probably don't work anymore, but this is the most complete kit I've ever seen. We have the means of taking the rear wheel off. Now I've not opened up the toolkit. I have no idea what it's going to look like in there. Now I'm hoping it's going to be complete. And it does look promising. This is very much a complete BMW GS OEM toolkit in very, very nice condition. Most of the time the tools have a bit of rust on them. Again, this bike is 32 years old. Nothing. So that is a very nice find. Anyway, let's roll this back up again. Okay, normally when I do these videos, the test ride footage and the comments at the end that you're seeing are really the first impressions. It's the first time I took out the bike. Now, I did this with this bike, and I recorded the footage on new to me camera, and those of you who play with video cameras probably know what's coming. All of the footage was corrupted. So what we're talking about now is after the fact. I've already ridden this bike a few times and I like it. I mean, everything on this bike works. So people are saying that pretty much any stock seat since the R75 is getting worse. This is nothing to write home about, which is why this bike came with this wonderful contraption, monstrosity. You take your pick. So I've ridden it with both. I'm not sure this is an improvement, but I think that's because it's custom made for one of the previous owners. It's a bit too wide for me. This one's a bit too narrow. Take your pick. Plans. Well, as I mentioned, ride it about once a month. Over the winter, I'll probably do a little bit of touch-up. The side stand has a bunch of surface rust. The luggage carrier has surface rust, all indicating that this bike actually has been used as intended in the past. So a little bit of paint will make a big difference here. Clean up the panniers, seal them with some ceramic coating so they've got the right color back and all that. As I mentioned, I've ridden it. I'm not a huge fan of this seat. More content like this and some overdue updates about my other bikes and cars, please subscribe. It's really appreciated and it helps me, keep the motivation up. Also, please comment. And I read every comment. I might not reply to every comment, but I do read every comment. All right, that's it for this bike.